It's one of the most frustrating and, let's be honest, kind of scary situations you can be in. You go to an urgent care for help, thinking you're in the right place, only for them to turn around and say, nope, you got to go to the ER. So today, we're going to get into exactly why that happens.
I mean, you picked urgent care for a reason, right? To save time, save a ton of money for what feels like a pretty simple problem. So when they tell you to go to the hospital anyway, it's totally normal to think, wait, what just happened? Did I just waste a whole bunch of time and money?
Well, here's the surprising part. It turns out this doesn't happen nearly as often as you might think. On average, only about 3%, just 3 of all urgent care visits end up with a transfer to the emergency room. Now, that's a really tiny number, but if you're one of the people in that 3%, it feels like a huge, massive deal.
Now, it's so easy to jump to conclusions, right? To blame the insurance company or maybe think the clinic is just trying to get rid of you. But the real story, well, it's way more complicated than that. It's this whole mix of medicine, money, and a ton of legal pressure. So let's peel back those layers and see what's really going on.
So that gets us to the big question of the day. What is it about that tiny 3% of cases that sets off all the alarm bells and makes them so different from everyone else? And you can see it right here. The vast majority of patients, like 96%, they get treated and sent right home from urgent care. It's that small sliver that we're digging into today. That's the critical moment where an urgent care team has to say, okay, we've hit the limit of what we can safely do here.
All right, let's just get it out of the way. The elephant in the room. Most of us think that when things get weird in healthcare, all you have to do is follow the money. So, are the insurance companies secretly telling urgent cares to ship patients off to the super expensive ER?
Well, one look at this chart tells you pretty much everything you need to know. The average urgent care visit, maybe $150. But that exact same problem when you take it to an ER can cost over $2,000. This right here shows that insurance companies have a massive financial reason to keep you out of the ER, not to send you there.
And this is the bottom line. It's a really crucial point. There are no secret quotas. No insurance company is telling an urgent care that they need to transfer a certain percentage of patients. In fact, what they want is the exact opposite.
So, if there aren't any quotas, how do they have any say at all? Well, it's more indirect. They keep an eye on clinics for what they call inappropriate ER use. So if a center starts sending a lot of people to the ER for things they probably could have handled themselves, that might trigger an audit or a contract review. At the end of the day, they just want to make sure that triage is saving them money, not costing them more.
Okay, so if it's not the insurance companies pushing for more ER transfers, then the pressure has to be coming from somewhere else. And it is. It's coming from inside the urgent care center itself. And this is where you see this constant tug of war between doing what's safest for the patient and the hard realities of running a business.
And this really lays out that tug of war perfectly. On one hand, keeping you as a patient, well, that means revenue for the clinic and a happy customer. It makes them look good. But on the other hand, transferring you gets a complicated case off their plate. It avoids care they might not get paid for, and this is the big one, it basically eliminates the huge, terrifying risk of a lawsuit. It's a really tough spot to be in. This table just makes it all so clear. You can see how everyone has different motivations. Patients and insurance companies, they almost always want fewer ER transfers. But the urgent care, they're stuck right in the middle. And look at that last row. That's a fascinating twist. If the urgent care is owned by a hospital, they often do have a reason to transfer you because they're basically sending business to their own, much more profitable emergency room. But systems and incentives and business models are one thing. At the end of the day, this whole decision comes down to one person in a room with a patient. This is what we call the clinician's crossroads. And believe me, the stakes could not possibly be higher. And to really get what's going on in their head, you have to understand this concept called defensive medicine. Basically, it's when a medical decision isn't just about what's best for the patient, but also about what's going to protect the doctor from getting sued later. And in the high-speed, high-pressure world of urgent care, this is an incredibly powerful driver of behavior. So what kind of things trigger that defensive thinking? It's symptoms like these. Things like chest pain, sudden weakness, a bad head injury. An urgent care just doesn't have a CT scanner or a cath lab to 100% rule out a heart attack or stroke. Their job isn't to give you the final answer for these scary things. It's to recognize the red flag and get you to a place that can't. And this quote right here, this just gets to the absolute core of it. For any doctor or nurse, the fear of missing that one catastrophic case, that one heart attack they send home by mistake, is so enormous that sending a few unnecessary transfers to the ER seems like a very small price to pay. The personal and professional cost of being wrong is just too high to even think about.
So when you strip everything else away, the money, the policies, the data, it all comes down to this one single, incredibly heavy question that a clinician has to ask themselves. They're making a bet with their medical license and with your life. And when you think about it that way, the decision to play it safe and send you to the ER becomes completely, totally understandable.
Okay, so after digging into all of that, what does this actually mean for you? What are the big things to take away from all this? How does understanding this big, complicated web of pressures help you as a patient?
Let's just boil it all down to 3 key things. First, you can forget that whole idea about insurance quotas. They actually want to stop expensive ER trips. Second, remember that the urgent care clinic itself is walking this tightrope, balancing making money against managing risk. But the third thing, and this is the most important, when a doctor or nurse sees a high-risk symptom they can't explain, their instinct to be safe is going to win. Every single time.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to chew on. While the goal is, of course, always patient safety, you have to wonder, is the system we've actually built, the one that's driven by costs and fear of lawsuits, truly designed to protect the patient, or is it really designed to protect the providers? It's something worth thinking about. Thanks for tuning in.